dancing to keep the boredom out and the fear. Afghan journalist Marina and her extended family fled the Taliban from Mazar-e Sharif in mid-August. She's now in Uzbekistan's capital, Tashkent, with her sister, her 2 children, her husband, and his brother. Marina speaks several foreign languages, including Russian. She says her reporting and activism for women's rights would have been a death sentence under Taliban rule.
My whole family was worried about me because I always wrote against the Taliban. I remember I took a backpack, diapers and milk for the little one, 1 or 2 pieces of clothing to wear, and then we just ran.
The 26-year-old tells us the uncertainty over their future is hard. Uzbekistan is not a signatory of the International UN Refugee Convention, so they don't have refugee status. Instead, Marina and her relatives have 3-month guest visas.
We would have stayed in Afghanistan if we hadn't been afraid. It's our home, but we knew it's dangerous. They would have found us.
Rights groups and local activists say there are hundreds of Afghan political refugees like Marina's family across Uzbekistan, including in the city of Termez, just a few kilometers away from the border with Afghanistan. Officially, the government doesn't even acknowledge that some of the recent arrivals were forced to flee.
There are no refugees in our country. We have never taken them in. Initially, when there was a stream of people, we held talks with the Taliban. The Taliban talked to the people and asked them to return home. And they all left Uzbekistan voluntarily.
Uzbekistan seems to be treading carefully when it comes to relations with its neighbor across the border. While Tashkent hasn't recognized the Taliban government, officials have held several rounds of talks with the group, including on economic projects and trade. Stability is always a key concern for the government and the people here in Uzbekistan, and at this section of the border fence you can see why. War-torn Afghanistan is just a few hundred meters away. But human rights activists say it shouldn't just be about stability, and that the Uzbek government needs to take more decisive action to prevent those who fled the Taliban from being deported back to Afghanistan.
These people often end up not having any legal status, which means they can be pressured or blackmailed or become victims of corruption. So now they must be allowed to extend their temporary visas until they get refuge in a third country.
Marina misses her relatives back in Afghanistan, but she's also terrified she could be deported back to her home country. Uzbek government officials have recently talked about extending temporary visas for Afghans currently in the country, but Marina's visa expires next week.
If I'm deported to Afghanistan, I will be in danger. They'll probably just kill me, and that's it. I just want to be able to breathe properly and not just sit and wait for our visa to expire, God forbid. Every morning I wake up and I look at the calendar on my phone to see how many days we have left.
Marina hopes that her family can start building a new future soon, rather than being stuck in limbo. In just a few days' time, she'll find out whether or not she'll be given the opportunity to do so.